So here's our studio audience, and so we go. Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for coming today. We're surrounded by our friends and family, and this is the 10th annual Parmigiano Reggiano COVID-19 edition. We've been doing this event for 10 years, and this year in particular we had something really excited lined up. I met Dan at the farmer's market. Dan Hamilton owns Dakota Creek Forge, and it was on one blustery day, fall day, that I looked at him and I said, "Do you ever do custom work?" And he said, "Well, of course. What are you thinking?" I said, "Well, how about a Parmigiano knife?" And so I said, let's do this, right?
Yeah, and I asked what that was, and
so I came back to the kitchen actually, and then went back down to the farmer's market around 3 o'clock and handed him a few toys, and I said, "This is kind of what we're looking at," and I've got some samples of things I've used in the previous years. So 10 years ago, I used a carpet knife and one sort of souvenir Parmigiano coltello a cuore, so the heart of the Parmigiano knife. And I handed these to Dan, and he was going to mock up something and begin working on it. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the materials you use?
Sure. So mostly what I work with is recycled steel, so like a leaf spring out of an old trailer, and I have I can't really lift it up, but a big L6 saw blade that I get from recyclers, around town. A lot of stuff I use store-made stuff when I want to really make sure I get the heat treat and temper right, because this can all be kind of mystery steel and takes a lot of experimentation to get it right. But if I know what I'm working with, I can actually use the charts and get all the hardness and the temper right. And then it's all just hammer, anvil, forge. Very real basic hand tools.
And you built your forge in your garage, right?
Yeah, built my forge about 3 or 4 years ago. Before that, I was using charcoal and a little hand crank blower when I was just sort of messing around with it. But when I got serious, I built a propane forge that just made it a lot cleaner, less smoky, and a lot more efficient.
And how hot does it get?
As hot as you want to get it, I guess. You could melt steel in it if you turned it up, but I'd probably burn my shop down first.
So when I was out there taking a look at the knives as they were just about to be finished, you were showing me kind of some of the way that the spark pattern tells you about the hardness of the metal. Can you tell our customers a little bit about that? Sure.
When you're working with mystery steel like this leaf spring, you do your research as far as what those are typically made out of, in this case 5160, and then you compare that to a known steel by something called a spark test. So I have a 2x72 belt grinder, so I'll hold it up to that grinder and watch what the sparks look like, and when the sparks come off the belt, if there's any carbon in it at all, those sparks will come out and they'll kind of firework out. And so you can tell by how long and how bright those sparks are around the amount of carbon that it should have in it. That with a bunch of other kind of homemade tests about air hardening or a certain scale that builds up, you can get pretty close to figuring out what you're working with. So something like a butter knife or something that would have almost no carbon in it would barely spark at all. But something that was really high carbon, like a 1095 or something like that, would spark a lot. So you just sort of compare and contrast, and you got to use your judgment. And then if it snaps on you when you're tempering it, you did something wrong.
Okay, so we're gonna unveil what you built for us here. So this is the Punta Guarda. Here we have the new version of the coltello a cuore, and then the new guy here, which I don't actually know the name. This is one you just added to the collection.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is the knife that will score the cheese, and we'll score the cheese today hemispherically. And then the Punto Guarda. This one's great. Or sorry, this one is the barbe, the dente. So this one has teeth that will help us push into the Parmigiano wheel and begin to open the fissure even deeper. So as I mentioned, we're gonna run hemispherically along the edge of the cheese. We'll first score it. We'll begin plunging in with the heart of the Parmigiano knife. Then we'll use these teeth and the sharpness and length of this knife to go deeper. We'll give it a little movement, and then we'll replace that with this guy with a blunt tip. So that'll be our process for that. Just a few fun facts before we get about the Parmigiano. This cheese right here, there's typically 2 wheels made from every kettle. And every kettle has 1,100 liters or 290 gallons of milk per 2 wheels. After they've aged for a minimum of 12 months, they'll weigh about 85 pounds. The cheese that we have here today with us is October of 2017. So we're just shy of 3 years of aging. So this is a really special piece of cheese that our purveyor brought in for us. And we're going to actually compare this cheese later this week to the other side of the Po River, the Grana. The Grana version of this cheese tends to be a little bit younger, a little bit of a softer flavor, a little bit of a lower price point. And we're going to allow our customers to do a taste test, and we'll sell these through our Chow Time To Go program this week. Let's see, what else? A great story about Parmigiano is they are wheels like this. They stack approximately 4 meters high in a warehouse. They can have up to 100,000 wheels per warehouse. And a few years back, some crooks actually tunneled into a Parmigiano vault and rolled the wheels out. And that was about 25 million euro worth of theft. So of course the fear was if you don't get the cheese back in time, it was going to end up grated and they'll never recover it again. So that's just a fun fact. Parmigiano Reggiano is actually a commodity on their stock market, so it holds a future value, and the government creates subsidies so that this can be a continued crop in that country, representing about 18% of all the milk used in that country. So with that said, we no longer need these guys. Let's get cracking.
What's the record?
Okay, the record was about 2 minutes and 35 seconds, but today we're just going to enjoy this. We'll see. We'll try not to get too excited.
Sort of like rest of the bowl thing.
Yeah, sort of. Okay. Just going to wipe this down real quick. Okay, Chow Time customers watching this online, this is for you. Let's make sure you turn it. Okay, here we go. We're going to begin right here. It's feeling pretty great. I've never had a real knife like this one. You've used that carpet knife. Oh, got off the line. Okay. 2 passes around. Now let's begin. Woo-hoo-hoo, it's gonna be a workout. Okay. There it comes. That's pretty nice, Dan. I've actually bent these knives before.
And then it'll crack.
Yes, if we do it right, it'll crack in 2 perfect pieces. Oh, that slid in perfect.
Put the smell on the video.
That's true. You can't smell it. It's delicious. So we have some extra vecchio 25-year balsamic from our friend Mary Angela, and we're going to give you a taste of that with the Parmigiano right when it comes out. Woo, baby. So we let this acclimate to room temperature for 3 days before we attempted to do this. So here they come out. Let's go. So we'll try to keep our order as we go.
So you start with quarters and move to the between stuff.
That's right, that's my plan. I'm gonna try to get 4 perfect spots. Those knives are working beautifully. The feeling they're really sharp too, Dan. Thanks. Don't want to slip today. Okay. Woo! That went nice. It's a workout too. Okay. Spin that guy around.
Tell us about the rind of the cheese.
The rind on the cheese,
Is it wax or is it cheese?
it is not wax. It is in fact cheese.
Wow.
Okay, so I've done 4 corners, if you will. Now I'm going to begin diving in to make 8 total points.
So imagine it like a compass and we start at northeast, southwest.
That's right.
That'll go big.
Thanks, Jess. Typically when I stop talking in a cooking class, you know I'm really concentrating. Okay, so this is our new points. I'm going to go to the other side.
So is it in a mold?
They do. They use a belt.
The belt puts the date that it was produced on there. It numbers the cheeses. It puts the stamp of Parmigiano Reggiano, so you know that it was made in the style of Parmigiano Reggiano in the region of Parma, which has all kinds of special specifications in terms of the milk that they use from which farms and how it's produced. And you'll see the little DOP sign there in the middle. Also tells you that it's a designated product that is made from this region. And all of that is cheese. So quite often people make the mistake of thinking that there's a wax layer on the outside, but it's just that it's more aged on the outside. This whole thing is cheese. So don't throw away your rinds. Hold on to them. Put them in the freezer if you're not going to use them right away. Use them for stocks and stews because they flavor stocks so beautifully.
That's true. This makes an incredible stock. Woo-hoo-hoo. Okay, Dan, you're gonna have to wash up,
Okay.
and I'll have you throw on a pair of gloves.
Okay.
I have some black gloves right here for you. Did you hear the first crack? It just happened. So now we just have to get it to catch up. And make sure you dry your hands really well.
Is a cheese like wine where it's specific to a region?
This cheese is. This cheese has to come from the region of Parmigiano Reggiano, Parma and Reggio Emilia, or it cannot have the name Parmigiano Reggiano.
So you'll notice American versions are called Parmesan, which are done in a similar fashion, but they not have some issue with calling it Parmesan.
Okay.
And where is this factory?
I don't know where this particular factory is, but they're all in that same region of Parma and Milan.
Okay, buddy.
All right.
I'm gonna have you step in.
Okay.
Have you go ahead and place this right in. Push it straight in,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna have you wiggle it side to side.
Okay.
There are counties, so maybe like 2 counties worth. But there's only so many
Perfect.
that can be produced.
And then,
Here they
okay,
produce
what we're gonna do is we're just gonna begin
5 days a year.
opening up all these
So that
fissures.
they
So we're just
can
gonna
produce the maximum amount.
continue to change the angle. So there's the first one.
Okay.
Then we'll do this one. Give that one a shimmy. I'll have you replace that one there.
Okay.
Shimmy. Perfect. Go ahead and leave it as a handle.
All right.
Push it. Go ahead and pop that one in right there.
Yeah.
I told Dan this was going to be part of his payment
Yeah.
that he did help break the wheel. Okay, pull it
All right.
out.
Okay.
Do it again.
Down, same spot.
Same spot. As deep as you can go. Go ahead and remove it and add the other one. Awesome. Nice wiggle. We're going to go right about here.
Yeah.
This one.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Gotcha.
Same process.
Yep.
And wiggle.
Slippery little sucker.
Okay. Place over that and then ultimately that.
Okay.
So to be labeled Parmigiano, after all the work and all the aging, they have someone come in who has to test each wheel individually, and they have a special little hammer that they'll knock on it with, and tests that they do to make sure that it's the highest quality of Parmigiano. And those that don't pass the test end up being broken and shredded for other things, but they can't be sold with the label Parmigiano.
Oof, getting that good smell. Seeing some movement.
Yeah. Almost there.
So once you've got lots of
Okay,
knives
we're gonna have
in
just
on all
a
the
few
different
more.
corners,
Okay.
he starts
Try
to
right here.
shift the knife
Go ahead and take
up
that
and
one, that one,
down,
that one.
rock, break that cheese.
Good, that's
Buddy,
loose.
you ready?
Sure.
Put that back in?
Back in?
Yep.
All right.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead
Okay.
and move these plates out of the way. We're gonna twist, and we're gonna lift it off. I'm gonna go
Okay.
right there.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Oh, that's gorgeous. Right on. There we go.
Wow.
Okay, so now, for the fun part, we'll take a piece right out of the center. So up until this very moment, this cheese was still alive. It was a breathing, living organism. And now we have just basically stopped its aging process because we broke it open. And get these plates out. We'll line up some pieces here. Dan, I'll have you grab those strawberries. Oh my gosh. I still shake like a
smell it.
leaf every time I do this. We'll give you some really nice, generous pieces. So the value of this wheel is just about $1,000 wholesale. And because of its age, they would actually be able to sell it for more. So they wouldn't sell it before, say, 12 months. And the oldest one we've tasted was about 6 years.
Whoa.
Okay, so there's the Parmigiano. Now here, this balsamico is the Vittorio. So our friend Mary Angela at Cadalmon in Vignola, is that right? Yeah. This was named after her father. So this is her father's series of vats, and it's finished in cherry. So you'll probably notice a nice amount of cherry flavor. We're going to pour this minimum of 25-year Parmigiano, or balsamico, on the Parmigiano. And we'll pair it with some strawberries. And Jessica, you'd help pass this out for me?
Oh, it smells so good.
It smells so good.
Smell it.
Absolutely incredible. That looks great. Okay. So Dan, you and I need to have a taste of this as well.
All right.
So we'll share a little bite. There's one for you.
Fantastic.
And one for me.
All right.
Cheers. Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's incredible. Whoa. Whoa. It's
We
never,
wish you all could be here with us.
it's never quite as good as this moment.
Sure, yeah, once
I mean,
it starts, you know.
That's fantastic. Whew. Okay. Oh man, that was good.
That's amazing.
What do you think?
It's amazing.
So good.
So we did a pretty great job of cutting that into perfect 2 pieces. What we're going to do now is we're going to use this scoring tool again. We're going to draw across, make sure I don't nick my cutting board, draw down, spin it. Okay, that was a good snack, guys.
Amazing.
Okay. And drive this guy in.
Every year at this event, when we have to break this cheese down,
Somebody has to do this in the next
somebody
room.
has to do this part, which takes a very long time. And in fact, in the last few years, it's prompted us to buy one wheel in advance so that we can have it pre-cut for the class. Because it takes so much time to break that first cheese down.
So with this process, we will break it down into 8s, and then from there, we'll break it down to your orders later this week. Woo-hoo-hoo. Bob, this is better than CrossFit, I think. Okay.
Kind of like flipping tires.
That's right. Maybe this is what they do for CrossFit in Italy. Okay. That was not a bad break. Nice and clean. We'll do that one more time so we can get some to use in our recipes for today. Oh, I really like this one, Dan.
Oh, right on.
That was a nice knife.
Nice.
That's great. So I've actually bent these knives before that come from the factory set, if you will. But these are not showing any sign of breaking. There we go. Okay. One more here. So we started with about 80 pounds, and now we're down to an 1/8 wheel, so about 10 pounds. And I'm going to get a different tool that I love for Parmigiano. the microplane. And with this microplane, we're just going to make some snow because it works out really well in the recipes.
If you don't have one of these tools, we highly recommend them. Not just for Parmigiano, but they're great for other recipes where you might be grating ginger, or you might want to find lime or lemon or orange zest for a sauce or vinaigrette that you're making. They are a great tool. We will also have them on the website this week along with the cheese, so don't forget to get yourself one if you don't have one.
So I'm going to grate this all the way down to the rind in this spot, just so I can show you that. So that section right there, that is actually still all cheese. So if you start using this tool, take it as far as you can go before the aging has set the rind, and then hold those in a little bag or something in the freezer until the next time you make stock. Okay. So this is a Silpat baking sheet, and hardly anything sticks to it. So we're going to use it to help make these crackers. And the cheese has quite a lot of oil in it. So as they bake, they'll release from the surface of that. We'll flip them over and we'll continue to bake them as soon as we have another sheet.
Is there an age beyond 6 years or 10 years with a wheel of cheese that is considered too long?
Yeah, so Jessica prefers just at about 24 months. And if we had that to kind of do a taste test, you'd see that it's just a little softer, a little fruitier. And as it gets to this point, it's a little sharper and a little nuttier. And you can kind of taste those crystals in your mouth. Those crystals really begin to form at about 12 months. So for me, a 12 month is too light, it's too young. 24 months to 3 years is really nice. After that, it just gets kind of sharper and sharper, as you can imagine. Make a little more snow for the vinaigrette. And Luca can edit out all those silent spots. Hey, look at that chicken. Thanks, Luca. So put this tray here. Use this, and we'll use these little rings as a form. We'll go ahead and put about 2 pinches in there. You want just enough of this Parmigiano to cover the bottom, but when you press down on it, you don't see holes. And you don't want it to be too thick in any one spot. Just like that. So I'll make a couple of these. And these are great snacks, or you can use them on your salads. We call them a Parmigiano Frico. And typically we'll bake these just under 300 degrees. We go for about 12 minutes, and then we bring them out and we try and flip them over so that they can cook on both sides. Another 4 or 5 minutes in, and then bring them out and allow them to cool off of the sheet tray on either a rack or a paper towel. And when they're room temperature, they're nice and crisp.
Can you hold them?
You can hold them after you bake them.
In an airtight container.
Oh, hold them like that. Yes. In an airtight container. One more. Okay.
You have to be careful not to get these too thick, because then the cheese is, excuse me, in the middle doesn't crisp all the way.
Right.
Keeps them from staying crisp.
That is a good point. Okay.
They don't
Let's
last
give that.
longer in our house anyways.
Give that a start. Everybody see those? We have a chicken. Make those in the wood stove. Okay. So from there, we're going to get started on a sauce using Parmigiano. So we'll make a little more of this snow. About a cup of it. Okay. So here we go. We have a pan here, and we're going to make a classical sauce that in France is called bechamel, and in Italy it has the addition of nutmeg, and then it becomes a bechamella. So what we're going to do is heat up the pan, and we're going to melt the butter. So we're going to do about 2 ounces of butter. I'm going to grab a wooden spoon, melt the butter, let that go, and then over here I have my nutmeg, and a great tool for nutmeg is, once again, the microplane. So we use that to make some fresh nutmeg. Always keep it as fresh as you can.
Fresh nutmeg is a totally different beast than the pre-grated nutmeg you might find at the store. I thought I was not a fan of nutmeg until I had it fresh, and I realized that the powder nutmeg is not really.
Okay, so
and
the butter
that
is...
will last for a long time.
Absolutely, in a whole form. Any spice you can buy in a whole form will give you more life on it. So here we are. The butter's just about melted, but we don't want to begin burning the milk solids or browning the milk solids, because this sauce, we want it to be almost snow white if possible. So we're going to remove the pan from the heat and lower the heat, just so we don't accidentally start to toast those milk solids. There we go, pan's cooling down. And then here, I actually have just a little bit of gluten-free flour, and we're going to add equal parts flour and butter, and that's going to allow us to have a sandy-like consistency for this roux. And the sign that you have a blonde roux is you typically smell freshly buttered popcorn. And it happens in just about a minute. Right there. So there we go. We have sort of a sandy roux. It doesn't have to be a thick ball, because all we want is for it to thicken the milk, which we have here. And now for a little tip. Remove the pan from the heat. Add the milk. So we have about a half a cup of roux, and I'm going to add about a little over a cup of milk. And we're going to allow it to actually just stop cooking for a moment, because when you add cold milk to a warm roux, the two will just sort of marry. If you were to add hot milk to a hot roux, you'd have the potential for lumps, or cold and cold, you'd have lumps. So by just giving it a minute to set, we'll allow the two to come together, and then we can begin stirring. So initially I use the wooden spoon to make that roux, just so we don't end up with lumps inside of a whisk balloon. But now we'll bring this back to the heat, and we'll begin whisking them together. And if initially it feels like your bechamel is too thin, just control the heat and allow a little bit of evaporation to occur, and as it heats up, it'll get tighter and thicker. So this is a great sauce to add to lasagnas, or to create as the base for, say, an Alfredo pasta sauce. So first we need to get the milk back up to temperature. I've incorporated the roux into the milk, and we'll bring it just to a simmer, and we'll watch it start to thicken. There we go. So now I'm going to control the heat. And remember, when you're working with something like this, it's always really easy to just remove the pan from the stove to help control your heat. And there we go.
Especially important on electric stoves that sometimes don't cool down as
Right.
quickly as you want them to.
So the pan itself has a lot of residual heat. And in this case, we'll put the wooden spoon back in, and we're just going to demonstrate sort of the nap of this sauce. So we'll draw a line, and we see that it's not falling back together. So if you find that it's actually too thick, we can add just a touch more milk, or even just a splash of water to thin it down. And in this case, we're going to be adding cheese and our nutmeg. Turn that heat down a touch more. We're going to add just a pinch of salt, and we're going to use just a little fennel pollen fresh cracked pepper and chili flake. So we'll mix that in, melt the parm, and make a really nice fonduta. So if you make this thicker, you could actually use it to help fill, say, cannelloni. Put it between sheets of pasta for a lasagna. Or in this case, today, we're gonna actually use it to make a crepe. Okay, so I'm just thinning it down just a bit. And right there, we have a beautiful fondue of Parmigiano. So we'll take some of that, put it right here in the cutting board for you to see, which is white. So it's a beautiful plating consistency, and that'll look great on our crepe. Sound good? Right here in the cutting board for you to see. Give it a look. Okay, awesome. Okay, so I've been preheating a new crepe pan for this class because we're going to be making crepes for you this week. And I'm going to attempt to use a cast iron skillet. Because truth be told, I went to a couple stores today and it was the only crepe pan that I could find that was in the right shape. So I've been preheating it and rubbing it with a little bit of butter throughout the course of setting up for this class. And now we'll just check the temperature. We'll use a little bit of butter just to keep seasoning it, like so.
They see that you're using my drying towels.
Well, you know, Jessica, here's the thing.
I have to hide those from the kitchen typically so that you can't find them.
You know, here's the thing. Hang on now, here's the thing. What is it? When the cat's away, the mice will play? Something like that? You left me alone. You left me alone in the kitchen today, and they were so convenient. Okay, so I put this batter together just before the class so that it could rest, and it's just a really simple batter. And I did use gluten-free flour in it today, but 2 eggs, about 1.5 cups of flour, a cup of milk, and about 6 tablespoons of melted butter. I'm going to add melted butter. And I want to put just a little bit of fresh herb into it. So I have a little bit of parsley and thyme. Just going to put those together. And just for the excitement of being on camera, we're going to sneak just a little bit of Parmigiano into this batter as well. And we'll hope that it doesn't stick to the pan, because this is an unproven pan. So we're just going to keep it real on live TV. Okay. So I'm going to put about 1/4 cup. And I'm going to look at our Parmigiano tuiles. Oh, they're looking great. Okay. I'll show this to the camera. Show it to the studio audience. And then I'm going to grab a little spatula. I'm just going to show you. We'll get under there and see how they're just holding together. We're going to flip them, because what can happen in the final minutes of them drying is the surface tension of those Parmigiano oils can actually cause it to break when you go to remove it. And do you see how the top is nice and lacy? That little bit of lace is going to help keep it from sticking back in the pan. So again, we're just going to go back in there for a few minutes just to let them crisp up. And then we'll start talking about this batter here. So I'm folding in the fresh herbs and a little bit of Parmigiano. I adjusted the batter consistency with just a touch of milk that I had off to the side. And let's see how we do. Just a touch more butter, which never hurts. Okay, so the pan is a little bit cooler. So let's just fix that real quick. We want that heat to be just right. You have your sight, and you have your smell, and you have your taste for cooking, and you also have your ears. The pan's kind of telling you a story right now about how hot it is. So let's give this a shot. That's still a little thick, so we'll probably dilute that just a little more. And that pan handle is really hot, so we're just going to grab a towel. We're going to move it about. So we'll let this first one start to cook. Let's see how we did. And we'll just, because we have the egg, the butter, and the flour in there, we can add just a touch more milk and thin it out. And making this batter up in advance, you can put it in your refrigerator and pull it out the next day as well.
So this week on the CB to Go offerings, because it's Parmigiano week, we will be offering some special new items that will feature the cheese. We'll be doing a crepe dish that's got chicken and mushrooms and a Parmigiano bechamel. We'll be doing a vegetarian version of that with ricotta and spinach and Parmigiano bechamel. We will be making a creamy Parmigiano rice with a prosciutto and sage stuffed chicken. And I think a couple other delicious dishes on there. So do check those out. They might be a special just this 1 week when Parmigiano is ripe in here.
There we go. Okay. I'm going to get just a little more herb, and we're going to start working on the ricotta filling, and then we're going to let our chicken rest just a touch longer, and then we're going to finish the class with a salad.
Are your crisps doing?
I'm going to give them just one more minute. Okay, that's looking great. That plate right there. So it's just a little thick in the center. We can fix that. Nice little browning there, and there's our crepe. It's our first crepe. So we'll just reduce that down a touch. We'll try one more. Prepare our pan with a little of the butter. You can see it's too hot right there, right? So we'll change that. We'll see how the crew does with cast iron this week. Do you see how the pan is really smoking? So that was a great indication that if we put this crepe on there right now, it's going to go way too fast. So we'll let that cool down. And we'll come back to that. Okay. So, ricotta cheese. This is whole milk ricotta. And to this, we're going to add just a little herb. Always a little chili flake. Just a bit of salt. A little pepper. And then we'll make a little more of our snow.
How are those crisps?
Oh, thank you. Oh, they look beautiful, Jessica. Look at that. First ever Parmigiano crisps from the Woodstone oven. For our live studio audience. Yeah, they look fantastic. So we'll move these to a paper towel lined plate. That's a cue for you, Jessica.
I thought it might be.
And we'll let those cool, and we'll make a few more for everyone. Okay, so here we have herbs, seasoning, and then I have a little bit of lemon here. I'm going to put just a touch of that in here. And the rind in particular is what I'm after. It's going to give us all the flavor of that lemon without making the ricotta soupy or wet. That looks great. So there's some prepared ricotta cheese. We will put a little bit of parm in that as well, so we'll mix that in a second. And then let's talk a little bit about the mushrooms that I have behind us. So we just did these. We'll add a little bit of rosemary to those guys. And then we roasted a chicken as well, so we'll pull that chicken. And let's check on this pan again. Hot handle. Okay, try this out. Better.
Would you do much differently if you wanted a sweet crepe?
Yeah, I'd add a little bit of sugar to it, Jess. Going to try and move that batter around. See how the batter's moving a lot freer now? We can get a little bit of a larger size and a little bit of thinner crepe. So that's great. Okay, perfect. So that was a good live example of thinning down the batter in case you find it too thick. Let that cook. And as it cooks, you can actually see the white on the top of the uncooked batter dissipate. And then we need to just cook it just a moment longer.
I see that you're using a wood utensil with that. Is that intentional?
Well, it's because I lost my other one, honey. But it's going to work great. Okay, so we just need to let it cook just a touch more so that we don't tear it when we go to flip it. And with the weight of this pan, I'm not going to attempt to fling the pan into the audience and flip it like an omelet. So give that just a second longer so it doesn't tear. Okay. We'll get ready to make a salad in a moment. There we go. That one's perfect. So we'll make a few more of those for dinner. So I'm okay with having a little bit of browning on the crepe, but I certainly don't want it to be too thick. A little bit of browning is nice because that caramelization tastes great. But like a traditional French omelet, we would want it to be just perfectly cooked and not too much of that browning. So let's stop this one just a little bit early, because without that browning and that crisping, it'll be a little more pliable to fill it and fold it, and then we can always finish it in the oven. Does that make sense? Okay. I like the way that one feels. Okay, that's great. So let's say that this one is our winner. We'll slide that onto the plate. And that is a great specimen of a crepe. Beautiful. Okay. Onto our salad. So with salad dressings, I really love to have a bit of a variation in acid or vinegars. I don't like to just stick with one. I usually use a blend. So in this case, we're going to start with this lemon zest, and that'll give us some sweet oils of the lemon.
Again, the microplane awesome
Again.
here because also it doesn't go quite as deep as some other zesters, which will get the bitter part of the pith involved. This one stays a little more on the surface, so you just get the pure lemon flavor without the bitter.
And then in this pitcher, I actually have some white balsamic, which is a nice, soft, light-colored balsamic. I'm just going to use my hand to take the seeds away. So we'll do 1 part lemon juice, 2 parts white balsamic. There we go. Lemons and seed. Here comes the balsamico. We'll just do this by eye. So here we have a little bit of olive oil. But before I put that olive oil in, we're going to add just a little bit of garlic. So I'll take 1 garlic clove, and I'm going to slice it as thin as I can, and we'll let it set in that acid with a little bit of salt. to macerate. And there it goes. Again with salt, a little bit of pepper, and a little chili flake. I usually do 3 parts salt, 1 part pepper, and then just a small measure of chili flake. And now I'm out of whisks. Jessica, can you hand me a fork? Okay, so we're going to begin to soften that garlic and that acid. And again, in this case, that's the white balsamic and the lemon juice. And we'll use a fork to stir it in. And now this is a debate. How many parts of oil to 1 part of acid? Anybody? 4 to 1? Okay, so in a standard French vinaigrette, there would be a total of 4 parts. 1 part of the acid and 3 parts of the oil to carry the acid along the tongue. Recently, this thought has been sort of revised by culinary magazines, and they're suggesting 2 parts oil to 1 part. And if you were to do, say, 1 to 1, it would be a little bit more of a marinade. So for me, I'm still kind of a purist with that. I think 3 parts of oil to 1 part acid gives you the cleanest vinaigrette. It's not too punchy. The oil helps carry it across your tongue and leaves just that little flavor of acid. So here we go. In this case, we just have simply lemon, white balsamic, and olive oil, and it makes a beautiful vinaigrette. You can see that's a temporary emulsification. Everything's just come together nicely. We've used salt, pepper, and a little bit of chili. But because we have this parm laying around, let's go ahead and turn this vinaigrette into a little more of a dressing by adding some of the parm. And if we were to whisk this very slowly into an egg yolk, we could create a permanent emulsification, or sort of like a Caesar dressing. So we'll do that. Add that in.
So with that cheese, does it need to be refrigerated still, or?
So this cheese, in a temperate climate, it could stay out well wrapped if you continue to use it each day. Typically though, we're not going to use it fast enough, so you'd wrap it and you'd put it in the fridge, but every time you bring it out, you'd want to wrap it fresh, so that your fingerprints aren't on the saran wrap or the cheese paper. But it will always taste the best at room temperature. Okay, so there we go. We have a nice Parmigiano lemon vinaigrette with just some slivered garlic. I'm going to use a bit of this fennel here, and we're going to make some shaved fennel for our salad. Are. Okay, fantastic. We'll garnish to finish. Oh, that's nice. Nice and crisp, nice and thin. Make sure you all share. Break that up. Okay. Delicious. Awesome. Okay. And I'm just going to assemble this crepe for you all on camera real quick. Can I have a couple more spoons? Maybe one more plate. Okay, so here's our chicken. I'm just going to reach in and separate the breast meat. And you know I'm going to save that chicken skin for something later, like a snack. We'll take some of the leg meat out. We'll break that up as well. We'll reach in here and grab a little bit of that thigh meat. So this guy has been cooling now for about 45 minutes. We cooked it in an oven at 400 degrees. And look at that, just nice and moist, allowing us to sort of tear the flesh, which is going to be really nice contrast inside of the crepe. You could also poach the chicken and tear it like that as well. So we have just a little bit there. Okay, so I'm going to lay in just a little bit of the ricotta cheese, like so. And then I put the mushrooms there. Reach over some of our mushrooms. I do. Yeah. We may use those as well if anyone wants. We might just do a little buffet up here for the class. And then take a little bit of this bechamel. I'll put that there as well. We're just gonna fold this up like so. Roll it nice and tight. Brought me a few more plates. So I'm gonna just take some of this fondue, swipe it on the plate like so, and we will cut our crepe at a bias, like so. Put it right there. 2 nice pieces. Okay. Maybe a little more parm just for fun, and a little fresh herb garnish that Luca helped me with. Perfect. Okay. With that said, we've had, we started actually with dessert, strawberry and Parmigiano and balsamico, and then a salad, and we'll finish with a little chicken-filled crepe bechamel. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks for watching today. We hope that you'll remember that all these lovely things are on our CT to go offerings this week, including dishes you can just get and eat and enjoy in case you don't feel like doing all this cooking. But if you do, we hope you'll enjoy that with some Parmigiano and maybe a new microplane. Father's Day is coming. Ciao.